Well, yeah, I watched the big air in the Olympics. That's what I've taken in, the big air qualifying.
Huh,
In his practice run, yeah.
that sucks.
There's one Canadian, I believe. I'm gonna butcher his name because I wasn't paying attention that much, but I think there's one Canadian in the finals. What's his name? Let me Google. Uh, Francis Jobin. Is in the finals for Big Air for Canada. So
Sweet.
good luck to him.
Can't be mad at that. I've not seen anything yet this year, but you know what I've done a complete 180 on in terms of my like outlook on and respect for is figure skating. When I was a kid, not that I didn't think it was impressive, but I just didn't care. I was like, sweet. Scott and Tessa win every fucking time. Let's go dominant. But then Steph, I think like 2 months ago maybe, we're over on the coast and she's like, I don't know why, but all of a sudden she just got the urge to watch some fucking figure skating. So she pulls up this specific routine that they did. I think it was 2018. And she pulls it up and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I watched that shit and I was like, all right, that seems pretty impossible. Not sure how you could train yourself to be able to do that. Yeah, it's
Do,
just insane. Like the balance that no, I mean not just the balance, but like everything to do with skating. And then on top of that, he's like throwing her in the fucking air. She's spinning times. Like this is ridiculous. Dude, there was one time she legitimately like she went up in the air, he caught her, landed, and both of her skates were just like right on his thighs. And I'm like, okay, that's obviously they're gonna be wearing padding, like prepared for that, but bro's not
uh,
skipping leg day, I'll tell you that.
did you ever watch Battle of the Blades back in the day?
No, but I watched Blades of Glory.
No.
Yeah, dude.
No, Battle of the Blades. Do you know what that is or no?
No.
Oh, you're too young. This is the age gap coming in. There used to be a show on CBC where they took like 10 professional figure skaters and then with they paired them with 10 hockey players. It's kind of like I guess like a Dancing with the Stars, but it was like figure skating. And it's just funny because they got like all these like tough guys out there. I think George Larac was on one season, Claude Lemieux was there, Bob Probert, like all these like really tough like
Not even
violent
particularly
dudes.
great skaters.
Yeah, not no, they never took like the best players. I think they wanted that contrast in their casting. Is a decent show. I don't think it ran too long, but it was fun.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, they probably realized pretty quickly, like, oh, none of these hockey players are going to show any personality. This might be unfortunate for us. But yeah, Nolan, if I'm not mistaken, you have never seen Blades of Glory. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
I'm not I do not have a bigger repertoire of movies watched under my belt.
Well, we might have to change that. That might have to be a pod movie night type beat.
We can do that. You just live stream us watching a movie.
Yeah, that'd be good. Free
I'm down.
content. Free content.
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of the pod, hello, hockey fans and football fans, as this is leading up to Super Bowl Sunday. Welcome to another episode of High Flying, the podcast made for the fans.
By the fans.
My name is Nolan, and that is my lovely co-host Jude Wessel. And yeah, we got a lot going on in the sports world. We got the Winter Olympics happening from Milan. The opening ceremonies are on as we speak at the time of this recording. Got Super Bowl Sunday coming up, which will kind of be the focus of this episode, and some stuff going on in the National Hockey League as well. How are you feeling about the state of events, my friend?
Good man. We're entering a pretty electric time for sports. I think everybody can agree. We got the Super Bowl coming up pretty quickly after that. We have got March Madness starting. We've got obviously Olympics for hockey. We got hockey and basketball playoffs around the corner. Baseball season starting. I know that's what you're most fired up for. So we're entering a pretty electric time of the sports calendar. And unfortunately, there's one football game left, but hopefully it ends with a Pacific Northwest W.
We can't forget as well. F1 is starting next month, I believe. It is the Australian Grand Prix, I believe, is what they're kicking off the season with. So, you know, if we're mentioning baseball, we definitely got to mention F1 as well.
Hey, fair enough. I'm not mad at it. Maybe I'll try and tune in a bit more this year. I can't. I've never been able to watch the races.
Watch Drive to Survive. Just get caught up a little bit.
Yeah, the F1 movie that just well, I say just came out. It came out a while ago, but with Brad Pitt. Every time I see a movie like that, or Ford versus Ferrari, Christian Bale, Rush, with fucking Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Brühl, all those movies are so sick. And if I was like 8 years old and I saw that, I'd be like, fuck it, I'm gonna be a race car driver. That's what I'm gonna do with my life. But then you take that and then to actually sit down and dial in and like watch a full race, I have not been able to garner the patience nor the passion
Okay.
for
So
that yet. But
just
maybe when I'm a little older, maybe F1 is like wine for me.
no,
The older I get, the more.
just watch the most recent season of Drive to Survive, so you're all caught up with what happened last year. You don't have to go. I think there's like 8 seasons. Don't go watch all 8 seasons. Just watch the most recent one, and then you'll be all caught up, and then maybe you'll feel a little different. My only advice to you is whatever race you pick to watch, don't pick Monaco. I personally love Monaco. It's kind of like the crown jewel of Formula One. It is one of my favorite races for the tradition behind it. Not a lot of overtaking happens in Monaco, so it may be a very boring first race. Usually the order they start is very similar to the order they finish in Monaco.
They have talked about Monaco quite extensively on the McAfee show whenever it comes up because he's obviously like they live in Indianapolis, right? So he's a big Indy 500 guy. IndyCar racing. He tries to say that's better than F1. There's some guys on the show that are like absolutely not, but he's like, okay, every time I turn on Monaco, it's the most boring shit I've ever seen in my life. So to your point, I think yeah, that is not the spectacle of it is cool. I guess all the yachts pulling up and all the famous people there, but
Yeah, you got all the celebrities, the yachts, you got the scenery, like you're driving through the streets of Monaco. That's pretty cool. You got the pool after. I think and everyone who watches Formula One knows that famous photograph of Daniel Ricciardo jumping into the pool after he won the Grand Prix. And like I love it just for the tradition behind it, but like action wise, it is the least action you're going to get in a race. My personal two favorites are actually I love Australia. Um, it's at Albert Park, and then Mexico. I've never seen a bad Mexican Grand Prix. Unfortunately for you, Mexico comes way later in the season, so if you want to start with that one, you may be waiting a bit. But Mexico's just at the right time of year where it's kind of down to maybe like 3 to 5 guys for the championship, so you know who the contenders are, and it gets super aggressive between those, especially with Piastri and Norris and Verstappen the past couple of years. And then as well, the straights in Mexico are fairly wide compared to some of the other circuits. So you get a lot of opportunities for overtaking in Mexico, and it leads to some pretty aggressive driving, I would say.
sweet.
Um, Another fun one is Singapore. Love Singapore. I mean, Ethan's a big F1 guy too. He can tell you his favorite ones, but those are probably my top three would be Australia, Singapore, and Mexico. Ethan, what are your favorite tracks to watch?
Where's
For those who don't know, Jude, Suzuka is Japan.
right. I I should have guessed that, but anyway. Am I
Belgium.
correct in saying
Belgium,
that
not
Monaco
proven.
over the years, oh, all good. Good pas conseil en Belgique. Anyways, am I correct in saying that Monaco over the years has gotten harder and harder to overtake in because the cars have gotten bigger and bigger?
Um, so So, yeah, Monaco's really narrow because it's built in like hundreds of year old like European city streets. They didn't really build the city for racing.
Mm.
Yes, the cars have gotten bigger, which makes it harder. The other thing too is every certain amount of years they change the regulations for how the cars are made. So 2025 was the last year of that set of regulations. So the problem with that is every team kind of figured out how to max their car for speed upgrades. So all the upgrades the past few years have been solely put into defense mechanisms, whether that be creating dirty air, whether that be improving their drag reduction. And so what that did is every team's focus wasn't necessarily how can I be the fastest car possible? It was how can I keep the guy behind me and make sure he stays there for in the entirety of the race. So I think it led to a lot less overtaking throughout the whole season. Like we saw it so many times that whoever the pole sitter was just essentially led the whole race through, if not including pit stops. But like if you were on pole and you converted turn one, chances are you had the net lead throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
This will be exciting because 2026 is the start of a new set of regulations. So we don't know how the cars are going to perform under the new regulations and the new systems that they've added to the races. So this may be a very exciting year for overtaking because everyone's coming into it on kind of a brand new slate. And then plus we also have two new teams in F1 this year as well. We have Audi coming into F1 and Cadillac.
Right. I have heard about that. Dude, you should approach Mike with an F1 pod.
I think we'll get Mike on here one
Yeah,
day to talk F1.
that'd be a good episode.
I think the problem with F1 is doing an F1 pod, I think for me would just be generating content because the races aren't always every week. Sometimes you have a 2, 3 week gap. And so if we're doing an episode right after a race, no problem. That's a lot of content. But to try and fill it with content for me, within those gaps, I don't know if I'm well versed enough in F1 as say I would be like in hockey. So that'd be my struggle. But doing a pod with Mike on here every once in a while, absolutely.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. The monthly check-in.
Yeah, yeah. Just two times a year we could do it like during summer break and then maybe like right before the championship or something. I'm cool with that.
Alright, let's go. All
Yeah.
right, should we move on over to football?
We can move on over to football. It is Super Bowl 60 coming up this Sunday from Santa Clara, California. It is the New England Patriots going up against the Seattle Seahawks. We have already kind of talked about this in a little bit of extent um, previously, last episode. At the beginning of the playoffs, Jude predicted New England to be his Super Bowl winner. However,
Smart guy.
he is a Seattle Seahawks fan, so he can't really go wrong here. He's kind of winning either way, although he has greatly expressed he'd much prefer to lose our football pool and see the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. Um, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I haven't really expressed my predictions since in our football pool I had the Rams. I'm gonna go 17-13 for New England.
All right.
That's what I'm doing.
I don't think it's crazy you picking New England to win, but that low scoring of a game. The
You think it's
Seahawks
gonna be
getting
high
held.
scoring? They barely got past Denver. I think what was that like a 10-7 game or something like
Yeah,
that?
dude, the Seahawks are averaging like 40 points in the playoffs.
Yeah, but this is Mike Vrabel we're talking about. This is Mike Vrabel's systems, his defense, and to think and New England can't put up points here, right? Like we watched the game against LA, like they were struggling for offense for a good chunk of that game against the Chargers. I think you can predict whatever you'd like. I think this is going to be on the lower scoring end here. I think this is going to be a bit of a cat and mouse game.
I think the Seahawks are scoring minimum 20 points. I do give Vrabel a lot of credit. I don't think the Seahawks are going to drop 40. I do think the defense is very stout. The matchup between JSN and Christian Gonzalez is going to be all time, if that is the matchup for the whole game. Though I do think the Seahawks are going to move JSN around a lot to try and get him other matchups, which would be smart. But man, I just think that offense is absolutely fucking clicking. Um, the run game has to be strong for Seattle though, because no Charbonnet hurts the third down situations. Kenneth Walker's a pretty good every down back, but they don't use him as an every down back. So the third stringer is going to get some carries like he did in the championship game, which worries me a bit. I did see both the Seahawks left tackles have been missing a bit of practice time with various injuries, and the Patriots do have a very strong front led by Milton Williams. So I really think it's going to be the line of scrimmage, which in most football games it is, that decides it. But I think the Patriots are going to have to find a way to score 25 points if they want to win this game. Because I think the Seahawks are going to be able to get bare minimum 2 touchdowns. But I think more than
Okay,
that.
so that's 14.
Yeah, but plus field goals and shit too.
What do you
But
think?
I think bare minimum. Like I cannot see the Seahawks scoring less than 20 points realistically.
Okay, do you got the score line?
I'll I'm gonna say Seahawks take it 28-20.
28 to 20. Okay, fans, if you are watching or listening to this, all you high flying fans, write in the DMs in the comments. Let us know your predictions for the score line. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe I will say whoever we'll say whichever fan gets the closest, we can do a special shout out or a promo for them or something next episode.
Yeah, sounds good.
There we go.
Sounds good.
I'm not excited for um the halftime entertainment. I don't know if that's just me, being old school with my music taste. What the hell? No, I don't want to. It's not racist. I don't want to see when we were talking. First of all, Ethan wasn't part of our show at this point in time, but when we had Jude's lovely girlfriend Steph on here back in the day, we were talking about the Super Bowl halftime show. And Ethan, I'm talking, and and I expressed that my favorite Super Bowl of all time was Tom Petty. So going from Tom Petty to Bad Bunny, the music taste doesn't necessarily match up to what I like to hear in my eardrums.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think they've just phoned it in on Super Bowl halftime shows. Not that he doesn't have a big audience, but they've kind of just gone back to the mill with like the big pop artists year after year after year after year. And I do not. I'd say since the Katy Perry one, I have not watched any of them because it's like you're saying, the music's yeah, just
They're
substanceless in my opinion. I'm just gonna say it. I just think it's bullshit computer music, and I don't care to listen to it. It's perfectly okay if other people do. I'm not telling anybody what they should and shouldn't like, but personally, yeah, I just there's nothing in there that's gonna draw me in. But
Yeah, and obviously they're going for the sponsorship money as Ethan pointed out when he so rudely interrupted me a few seconds ago. Bad Bunny has has a lot of listeners on there, so they're just going for all that ad money from people tuning in. Ethan, I'm just giving you a hard time. You're all good. He's very silent now.
yeah, yeah, no, totally. I mean, massive fan base, and I think probably also trying to draw in a bit of the Latin American crowd as well, which the NFL is doing a big global push at the moment. I just saw they announced, is it Rams 49ers in Australia next year? Going to be the first game played down under. Ethan, if you don't mind confirming that for me. I know it's the Rams. I think it's the 49ers, but I can't remember 100% who the second team is, but anyways, they're also going to be playing the game in France next year, I saw, so they're really trying to expand the global reach.
Yeah, and the Latin market kind of makes sense too for where it's being played in Santa Clara. That's a little, um, it's pretty close to the border there,
Formerly
and so
Mexico,
yeah, it's not.
where
Something
President
tells
Bull
me if
said,
this
"Give me that."
if this Super Bowl was in Minnesota, chances are Bad Bunny's not the halftime entertainment.
Holy.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's probably not as much of a market for Latin music.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's what. But yeah, I think I do. The NFL playing these games in all these different countries, on one hand, I think it's cool. On the other hand, I do think it ties in a little bit to what we are talking about last episode. It's like this is the biggest league in the fucking world. Like, why do we need to grow the game more? Like, it doesn't bother me or whatever. But if I was a player, I'd be like, why the fuck are we losing a home game to go play in France? They don't like football. They're not gonna like football. Like, what are we doing? It's fucking stupid. But
So That's my thing. I'd be pissed if I was the home team. If I'm the away team, I don't care. If I'm the home team, I'm really mad. And I wonder if the teams have to sign off first. Like I don't know who lost the home game between the 49ers and the Rams, but whichever team that is, I wonder if they have to agree to it. Because just from a pure, this is like the business side of me coming out. You only have uh what's it, 8 or 9 home games a season, depending on your schedule. If you go down to 7 home games, you've lost however many ticket sales, however much ad revenue, however much concession sales. Like you are losing so much money if you are down 1 or 2 home games. And so I wonder, A, if the teams are compensated by the league for playing overseas, or if they get a certain percentage of those ticket sales or ad revenue, or B, the team has to consent to it before they sign off. I don't actually know the process of how they select the teams for the international games or how they decide who loses the home game.
So what I learned is that the NFL does have to pay out a full home game for that team that is losing a home game. They have to completely compensate them for the ticket sales. I believe there's like a, I'm not sure how they come up with the numbers, but like parking, beer sales, merchandise, concessions, all that stuff. The NFL has to pay them out like the full valuation of I don't know if it's like an average of what they make per home game, but yeah, the NFL does have to pay out a pretty big premium for moving these games overseas.
Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah, I'm cool with that. The one thing I will say is I agree, I don't think we need to do that the NFL any bigger. I know in the Madden, I haven't played Madden in a long time. The last Madden game I had was Madden 25, which I think came out in 2015. It was Madden 25 for
It
the
did.
the 20th anniversary of the game. Uh, and I know in franchise mode at the time or whatever they call it in Madden, you had the option to relocate the team, and there were some international options on there like London and Dublin. And I know that's been floating around in the weeds. I think if anything, if it ever gets to this point, you do like a secondary European league or something that is owned by the NFL, right? Like you have the National Football League, you have a second separate entity that it can be owned by the NFL, it can be governed by the NFL, but it's going to have nothing to do with the structure of the NFL, right? Because
So
like you can't play games. That's way too much travel all the time to be going over the Atlantic. And the amount of talent, like we've seen the talent disparity just from the CFL to the NFL. If a team in Europe ever played against an NFL team, they would get murdered. It wouldn't even be a fun game.
so I think the only way realistically that they could do this, put a team in Europe, is either invest heavily in airplane technology and try and come up with a super jet that can get across the Atlantic in record time. Um, because like you're saying, it's just so far. Like the West Coast teams would never ever, you'd never be able to just mix in a game in London for Seattle or a San Francisco or an LA. Like it's 9 hours a minimum, and then you get the time change, and then coming back and like expecting them to do that, I think is just crazy. Now, playing against the East Coast teams, now you're cutting that down to like 6 hours or less. If we're, I'll just say London because that's where they've played the most games. So you're cutting that down to 6 hours or less. The time change sucks, but I think if you made it so that like a team in London, they played like their first 9 home games in London, stayed there, and just had teams coming in and out. And then I think the only way you could do it, they'd basically have to spend 9 weeks on the road, staying in hotels and just going from like having a home base kind of in New York or Philadelphia or somewhere on the East Coast, and then you're flying across to the West and coming back and staying on the East Coast, something like that. So, because I really do think that they are going to push to try and do this at some point, but logistically, it would be a bit of a nightmare to figure it out at this point with lacking an absolute super jet that can just rip across the Atlantic in like 2 hours.
I don't mind that suggestion if you're only doing one team. What I would probably do is because we know that this season the buys were I believe from week 5 to week 15. So for the first 4 weeks of the season, I would have a London team, for example, over here on the road. They can get their West Coast travel in. the last 5 weeks or 4 or 5 weeks of the season also have them over here. And I would use your example of the 9 consecutive weeks in between for London to play their home games. And the reason I would do it in between is that way any team that goes to play London can do so um, and have a bye um, either before or after, so they're extra rested for their travel to London, or they're extra rested after their travel from London. Like that's the only way it seems fair to me is if you're going to play in London, you either get a bye before or after.
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree. So yeah, I do think it'd be doable. Also, if they were going to expand, you'd assume it's going to be two teams, right? Just to even it out, and then you're kind of making it a little bit easier for those European squads.
See, here's my struggle with the NFL expanding is they have like the NFL scheduling system, I think is the best scheduling system out of any like pro sports league. Like it makes complete sense to me. It's like um you're playing each team in your division twice, like a home and away. You play one full other AFC division, one full other NFC division, and then you play all the other um teams that finished in the same seed. So for example, like if you finish first in your division, you're playing the other first place teams in the division, right? Like it makes super sense. If you throw in two more teams, it's going to completely throw off your scheduling structure. It's going to completely throw off your division alignment. So they're going to have to reconfigure their whole scheduling and division alignment system. Personally, I would not add more than 32 teams. I don't know who the unlucky team is that gets left out.
Jacksonville, bro. They're already
Yeah,
London's team. They've been over there every year.
yeah, but like I don't know what I don't follow Jacksonville closely enough to know what their attendance is. Like recent relocation has worked really well for the NFL. Like the most recent teams I can think of were St. Louis and San Diego, both moving to LA, and it's been fantastic for both of those franchises. So if they can kind of pull a rabbit out of a hat and pick a team and say you're going to London, so be it. I personally, I'm sure this will happen at some point because it's all about the dollars. I don't see a world where European teams can be integrated with the NFL. I think they need to be their own separate entity.
Um, kind of took a direction we didn't expect to there, but that's all right. Kept it in football. So is there
Well,
anything else?
oh, the other thing that'll be really interesting too. Um, Going into the UK and potentially the European Union because they played games in France, they played games in Germany. I don't want to single out football, but football players known to have some charges from time to time, and that may limit their ability to leave the country slash access certain other countries. Like I know, for example, like to get into Canada, you can't get into Canada if you have felony drug charges. I know this because Zach Brown band was supposed to play here, and one of their crew members couldn't get in, so they canceled the show. It's just fair enough. But I don't. I
Because one
wonder
crew guy?
if, pardon?
Because one crew guy, they canceled the whole show.
Yeah, they wouldn't let the one crew guy in, and so Zach Brown's argument was we stand with our crew and we support these guys, and if he's not allowed in, then I'm not either, kind of thing. It was a whole deal. I wasn't actually going to that show. I just heard about it on the news.
I
But
mean, if it was a fucking band member, okay, not to minimize the importance of crew guys, like if he's the head crew guy, like he runs the whole show, totally get it. But if this is like a guy that runs like one set of lights,
So I do not know the extent of the involvement of the crew member. I don't know if he was like a crew manager or a head crew guy, or if he's just a background guy. I don't know the extent of this. Point being though, is I don't know what the UK and European Union laws are for travel when you have felonies or prior convictions, but my guess is that may inhibit a lot of NFL players from being able to play those games.
not a bad point, not a bad point.
It says, well, Ethan just brought it up here. Charges from over a decade ago, and they have entered into Canada regularly over that time for two shows alone. it seems like they just ran into a border agent that didn't let them through. But like still, I don't know if teams would want to have to deal with the legalities of that traveling to Europe.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, they already kind of do, but
Canada is about to walk down the opening ceremony. Jude, who's your favorite Canadian Olympian all time non-hockey?
uh, good question. I like Mark McMorris.
That's you know what I was thinking right up there. I was thinking Mark McMorris as well. I
Just
remember
seems
when
like
him
an
and
absolute fucking beauty. But
yeah, I remember when him and his brother Craig had that show on MTV. McMorris and McMorris is like a snowboarding reality show. That was pretty cool. Craig does the broadcast for CBC. He's one of their broadcasters, so it's always fun hearing his voice on there. I've seen Craig at the airport actually. This is a true story. Um, we were Renee and Sam were flying back to Australia. They're flying back to Australia, and for those listeners, they have no clue who they are, but Jude knows who they are. And I see this guy, and I'm there. We're just there to see them off. And there's this dude just sprinting through YVR. He is a man on the mission. And I look up, and I'm like, hey, that's Craig McMorris. But obviously, I didn't stop him or anything because I feel like if you're running through an airport, you probably don't want to be interrupted. Um,
yeah,
anyways, yeah, a little tidbit there.
that would be my answer. Or Tessa Virtue. Classic.
Oh, that's a good answer. Yeah, Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer, gold medal figure skaters. That's a good answer. I was
Shout
gonna
out Morgan Riley.
I was gonna go summer Olympics. I was gonna go with Penny Oleksiak the as well. I think she'd be my summer answer. One of the most decorated Canadians of all time, and of course we got Summer McIntosh, who is now um, kind of doing that as well in the Summer Olympics. We're really good at swimming, eh? That kind of seems to be our summer thing is the swimming.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, not mad at it. I actually, in grade 11, when I was going to high school in West Van, there was a guy in a couple of my classes, absolute beauty. Um, I think it was Raven. He was trying to be an Olympic swimmer. He was like very high up there. He's done a bunch of races for Team Canada. I don't know. Well, I know he hasn't qualified like to this point, but I think he's still trying. So shout out to Raven. I hope he's in the Olympics one day.
Yeah, there you go.
Help me
The big
pass,
sh
help me pass French class and socialist class, dude. I would have failed both those classes without him. So shout out
Your
to Raven.
French is pretty good. You're a lot better than mine. My French is Matin Ferrari.
Dude, the thing is, like, so grade 10, when I went to Delta, the the level of education, let's say, was a steep drop off from Walnut Grove. Like our French teacher was an absolute nutcase, just brutal, and then she quit halfway through the year, and they didn't replace her. So we didn't learn like anything new in French all year. And then the next year I moved to Sentinel, which is in West Van, which for those who don't know, it is the number one rated public school for education in BC. Uh all the top like 30 are private schools, but it's the number one rated public school in BC for education. And that was a rude awakening for me, especially after a year where we basically didn't learn a single thing in French. So I walk in, and all these kids are like damn near at university level French, and I'm sitting here like, shit. And yeah, so there was a couple absolute legends in those classes with me who would help me out um, often, and to them I say thank you, respect.
Big thank you to those guys
Raven
for
and
yeah, there we go. Without you guys, Jude would not have graduated.
I would have. I just probably would have been a year older than I was when I did graduate.
Lots of summer school for you.
Yeah,
No, that's all I got. I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff going on in hockey, but I think we should save that for our regular scheduled programming next week.
cool. Yeah, we can break down the Super Bowl a little bit too.
Yeah, break down the Super Bowl. I guess stay tuned for next week where we talk about the Super Bowl. We can talk about the Panarin trade. We'll talk about the Battle of Florida. If you guys out there have a favorite Canadian Olympian, let us know.
That's
And
cool.
David Pastrnak is the flag bearer for Czechia. Winnipeg Jets legend Nino Niederreiter is one of the flag bearers for Switzerland. So yeah, a few hockey players representing. I believe the Canadian flag bearers, I could be wrong, I believe they're both mogul skiers. Doesn't that piss off? What's wrong with mogul skiers?
That
Ethan's
is a little
hating.
bit weak,
What
dude.
the
That is
hell?
a bit weak.
What the hell?
Yeah. Real,
What the
dude. Probably
hell?
both their last Olympics. Obviously, hockey's the most fucking important sport to
What
their
if this is
country.
the
Like, what are we
last? What
doing?
if these are the last Olympics for these mogul skiers?
Who
I
fucking
believe
cares, bro?
I
I kind of understand like the Canadian Olympic Federation or committee or whatever. They're probably looking at it like, look, all the hockey players get all the adulation anyways because it's the best sport we got. Let's let some other people have their shine. But
yeah,
I don't
I
see that. That's
fully
weak shit,
disagree with
bro.
you
How is
guys.
Sidney Crosby not our flag bearer?
No, I fully disagree with you guys. If Canada wins gold, maybe he can be the flag bearer at the closing ceremonies. But I think here's the thing. It's like in Vancouver in 2010, we set a record for the most Olympic medals ever won by Canada at an Olympic Games. And hockey is only two of those medals. So I do
Yeah.
think you need to share the
But the
wealth
only
throughout the
ones that
whole.
matter, bro. I don't care about. If we
No,
could win two golds as long as they're both hockey, I don't give a shit about the rest of them.
I thoroughly disagree, but that is okay. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for tuning in. Go watch some Olympics, and we'll be back with our regular scheduled programming next week.
Enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. Go tails on the coin toss. I'm telling you.